We have with us today the author of The 7 Commandments for Happiness and Prosperity, Miss Sharifi Brown. Shari, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Ed.
Shari, I have to tell you, when I saw the title of the book in that lovely blue and white cover, I couldn't help but pick it up on my way to San Francisco. What a nice book. It made me feel safe. It actually made me feel safe. And it also made me wonder, why the title?
Well, Ed, the title, 7 Commandments, is the consolidation of the commandments of all 3 prophets and getting rid of the redundancies. 10 Commandments of Moses, 2 Commandments of Jesus, and 7 Commandments of Muhammad. As I say in my book, I describe it really in detail. So that's where 7 commandments come from. Basically, it's the commandments of all 3 scriptures.
Pardon me for my ignorance, but would you tell me the 7 commandments that were selected from the 19?
It wasn't selected. It's 7 commandments is the same as the 19 commandments. Just getting rid of the redundancies, such as you have to believe there is only one God. You have to believe in the afterlife. You have to believe that there is a consequences of what you do.
Give me an example of one redundancy.
Believe in one God and do not recognize any partners with him.
Shari, what made you write it?
So 7 commandments is, as I told you, the consolidation of the 19 commandments. Now, happiness and prosperity. Because of the brevity of our time, I don't have time to, we don't have the time to go through why happiness and prosperity. So what I'm going to tell you is what it says in the scriptures. Happiness and prosperity. Prosperity is when Moses was at the brink of Jordan and he couldn't pass to Jordan, to the promised land. He told Joshua that take the 10 commandments, engrave it in your heart, put it on your lips and your mind, and that makes you prosperous and successful. Jesus said that if you are a generous person, you're going to be happy. So if you want to take it literally, and if you're a believer, you just take that happiness and prosperity. That's how I got happiness and prosperity.
I love the concept, but tell me this. Is some of what you just said the actual spoken word, or is it mythology?
What I said about happiness and prosperity is actual spoken word from Moses and Jesus.
How do you know?
It says it in the Bible, in the Old Testament and the New Testament. And in Quran, which is final testament, it's saying that it's based on Judaism and Christianity. Muhammad says, believe in Moses, believe in Jesus, and follow their scriptures. I didn't bring you a new religion. I just want to complete what was not completed by those prophets, because the time has changed. For instance, sorcery was very common during Moses. So Muhammad came and got rid of sorcerers and made it prohibited to do sorcery. So basically, he completed the commandments. Whatever Jesus and Moses had left out, he completed it. Word of evil. They all say that, but Muhammad goes into detail and why and how evil is wherever there is jealousy, animosity, negativity, there exists evil. And he commands us to stay away from him and ward him off.
What a fascinating concept if you look at it from your point of view. Muhammad was the last of the three great prophets. Not divine, never said he was. Believed in Christ as a prophet. Believed in Moses as a prophet. Believed in the commandments of Moses and the commandments of Jesus. But it needed refinement.
And he commanded us to believe in Moses and Jesus and their scripture. That's one of his commandments in Quran. Unfortunately, the tremendous amount of misunderstanding and all these political documents that they came out after Christ and after Muhammad have misled people to think that these documents have anything to do with believing or experiencing God. None of which is in these three scriptures have anything to do with you committing sin or not. The only important part of all the three scriptures is the commandments, which is 7 commandments, basically. It's the same as 19. And if you follow that, Muhammad said, if you don't commit the big sins, I will forgive you the small sins. So to follow that, to pray, to recognize that gives you a feeling of security. That is the fundamental message of God to us.
What you've said is the truth in all three religions. It's not limited to Islam, it's not limited to Judaism, it's not limited to Christianity. The Crusades were as ugly and evil as anything ISIS is doing today. And I had an experience on the plane. I actually prayed using the concept that if I prayed, I would meditate and feel more comfortable. I'm a little fearful of flying. Suddenly I was comfortable. And that comfort gave me a sense of happiness and well-being. And I could get the idea easily that if I were happier consistently, I probably would be more prosperous. Do I have this right?
Yes, but also prayer gives you a sense of security and self-confidence. And faith is the most important thing in knowing God. Anxiety, fear comes from lack of faith. If you have faith, you have hope. If you have hope, you become innovative. You would life becomes easier because you have a direct way to God. Faith is something that you have to acquire. You have to learn. You have to believe in it.
I'm confused. You have to believe in faith, or you have to develop faith?
You have to develop faith, and you have to believe that having faith is going to save you from fear of failure.
It makes sense to me. It's logical. And that's the only thing I sometimes lack, is faith. How do I do a better job at developing faith?
By praying.
And help me develop more faith.
And then you develop more faith, as a result of developing more faith, you become more, your self-confidence will grow, you become more successful.
Thank you for that explanation. Could we talk about something that's been bothering me ever since this morning? The president came on MSNBC and said, Islam hates us. Now, I don't know what he meant by that. He does many peculiar things. This wasn't a tweet. He actually got on the air and said, Islam hates us. Why? Why did he say that?
Because he doesn't know what Islam is. The very word means submission to the higher power. This has been 5,000 years ago. King Cyrus wrote the first Bill of Rights on a clay tablet that is in British Museum now. And it's in black and white. It tells you that you have to submit to the higher power. And that's what the word Islam means. And that is what Muhammad's intentions were. However, when he died, the religion was hijacked by Sunnis who wanted to create Khalifat. Khalifat meaning that you just elect your leader of religion.
I've heard Sunni. I heard Shia. Please tell me the difference.
Sunnis are by Khalifat. They are by election. When Muhammad died, his father-in-law, who was a governor and had more power, he took over the religion of Islam because Muslims at that point were really powerful and numerous in the Arabian Peninsula. After he died, the person who had appointed him, who was very powerful and rich in that time, his name was Omar, he became Caliph, and reciprocating for him voting for Muhammad.
I get it.
And after that, the third one, the fourth Caliph was the first Imam. And that's when Shia started, by the first Imam, because Muhammad's intention were to have Ali, who was his son-in-law, and his blood, since his children died in childhood. So he chose, unofficially he chose Ali as his successor. However, because Ali did not have the power and the money of Abu Bakr, they rejected him until the fourth Caliph was chosen as the fourth Caliph.
Shari.
And first Shia. So that's when Shia started, from the fourth Caliph.
Got it. Got it. So the internecine warfare that continues to this day between Shia and Sunni has nothing to do with Muhammad.
No.
But he wanted Ali.
He wanted Ali, and there was no book other than Quran. When Sunnis came, they wrote these documents, just like what Christians did with all these documents that were only dead political documents, indicating that women should cover their face, their hair, they cannot drive. He couldn't have said that because his own wife, she fought in the war on a camel. So everything that they say in Sharia law, most everything.
This is very important, so important. Sharia law is what terrifies the West because they see it as being so cruel and inhumane.
But it doesn't come from Muhammad, it doesn't come from Quran. It's a document that Sunnis created because they wanted to exercise their power over people.
So it's political.
It's definitely, it's 100% political, has nothing to do with Quran. If there was any book after Quran, it was Peak of Eloquence, which was written by his son-in-law and talks about validity of Quran and Bible, Old Testament and New Testament.
Therefore, it's all mythological.
So,
Am I right?
yes. So,
But are there mythologies in the other scriptures, in Christianity, in Judaism, that are just as incorrect, but nevertheless, centuries later?
well, the Old Testament and New Testament have a lot of discrepancies because I have read each one.
Can you tell us some examples?
For example, in one testament says Mary Magdalene was the one who anointed Christ with perfume. The other one says Mary, the sister of Martha. So if you see little differences, that means that whoever wrote this, there's many differences in both of these, in every publication. However, what is important to us and fits our understanding is the fact that simple commandments, that's all we need to do. The rest is going to be changed per time, per person who is going to be running. For instance, the Pope needs to, sometimes I feel that he has to change some of the laws about teaching students from childhood how important it is to teach the children our right and wrong. There's tremendous amount of fear about the title of God and religion, and everybody has been kept in dark. I said it in my book that they have to teach children from school. They have to have a mandatory course of spirituality to tell them, for instance, if you see your parents lie or steal, you should pray for them. You shouldn't repeat what they do. You should teach people from childhood the good and evil in the world. We shouldn't keep them in the dark. Definitely we should not wait until they grow up and they become manipulated by somebody like ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and as we see, students, college graduates, they join this terrorist group with very little knowledge of the religion, and they think they're doing it to go to heaven.
Islamic radicalism. That's what is heard over and over. This is what Trump tells us.
Putting the name of Islam or Muslim on anybody that I call them, I have my acronym, which is anti-Islamic, acronym AIM, which is anti-Islamic murderers. They're using Islam because that gives them more validity to do what they want. They can say that Quran says you have to behead people. Not only they're not Muslim, they're tarnishing the name of Islam. They are doing exactly what Muhammad said not to do. Muhammad came to the violence that people have, the proclivity to violence. Somehow, some of it is genetic with Arabs. And Muhammad was commanded by God to go and make these people, correct these people. So what happened, the very people hijacked his religion. When one of the ISIS members comes on television and said that we are Muslim and we're supposed to chop off the head of Americans, nobody asks him, America didn't exist during Muhammad and when Quran was written.
I never thought of that.
How do you say that you're commanded to kill Americans? Why?
It's a brilliant observation, and I have no answer for that. I don't think anybody does. But why the acronym? What are you planning to do with it?
Well, I need to have to make acquaint people with the fact that these people are not godly. They're not religious people. They're actually murderers. They were somehow they genetically, and somehow some of it is genetic, some of it is by their upbringing. When a child has been told that America is the great Satan, he grows up, he goes to these organizations, they tell him, we pay you good money if you kill Americans.
You're saying there is a genetic factor in the possible behavioral manifestations of these murders. How long ago did it start?
It started right when Sunni started, when Abu Bakr started. That is
Abu
why.
Bakr. Tell us about Abu Bakr.
Abu Bakr was the first Khalif who was elected by recommendation of a rich member of their
so
empire.
So the sociopathic behavior of murder.
Yes, it says in Quran.
The most indecent, inhuman behavior ever of all time. Jack the Ripper was a sociopath. So you're saying thousands of years ago, it started the concept of beheading people and saying this was a good thing.
Well, human sacrifice have been common from years, tens of thousands of years. But Muhammad came, and in Quran says, these people in Arabian Peninsula are violent people. You go and fix.
But they're in Iran as much as they are in the Arabian
Peninsula.
Peninsula.
And they force killed Zoroastrians, whom I just told you wrote the first Bill of Rights. They force killed Islam to Iran, and then when Ali, which was fourth Khalif, came, they started Shia, which was genetic. After Ali, his son was Imam, and then it was Imamat. It's 12 Imam. So they started killing each other. Shias and Sunnis killed each other because Shias did not believe in Khalifat. Now they are reinventing themselves, calling themselves Abu Bakr and Omar, just like those days. The head of ISIS starting to recreate Khalifat.
I have to ask you a very serious question. Radicalism is not genetic. Radicalism is a behavioral change, and it's contemporary. It's now. So I don't want to think of radicalism as having any genetic influence over contemporary behavior that caused what took place in San Bernardino of Paris or Belgium. Why is that happening?
Because people who have proclivity to violence, they feel better if they relate themselves to God and religion deep down. They think that everybody wants to go to heaven, to paradise.
They bought in to the philosophy of modernism, as told in both the Sunni and Shia religions.
Martyrism is obsolete now because from the beginning of time, when Moses came to Canaan and God ordered him to kill everybody, from the killings of Moses, then it was King David and Palestine, then Muhammad and Ali. All these killings have been for polytheists. If they believed in multiple gods, it was ethnic cleansing to get everybody who believes in more than one god. Now, almost everyone believes in one god. So the word jihad was on its way to absolution years ago, long time ago. Killing people is not going to take you to heaven. Killing innocent people is not going to take you to heaven.
then what was going on during 9/11?
9/11, all the people who were killed per Quran, all the people who were killed in those twin towers are martyrs because they were attacked.
Not the murderers are.
The murderers are not. They were
martyrs.
murderers.
The
they are
victims
martyrs
are.
because, yes, the victims, because they were attacked because of their religion, and they were innocent. They believed in one God. If they believed in one God and somebody attacked them, they're martyrs.
There's 1,300,000,000 Muslims in the world. How many of them wonder, like we wonder, about radicalism? It seems that they're saying all radicals, but to begin with, are Muslims. Is that true?
No. Well, it could be true, but all Muslims are not radicals. And you can't really say that because now, because of the media, we know about these killings, whereas during Crusaders and Inquisition.
Why are any Muslims radical? What is it about us they don't like?
They don't like because they think that we are powerful.
What's wrong with that? I read a book called Big Dog, Little Dog, where Muslims living in any part of the Middle East would respect one another based on power.
They have to respect, everybody should respect everybody else because...
Not because of power, or not because of a lack of power.
That's right. Well, they have this violent, I think it's genetic, some of it, that they have to, the bloodshed gives them a good feeling.
All Muslims?
Not all Muslims.
Maybe
all
the president's right.
All murderers. Not Muslims, all murderers.
I only want to talk about radicalism for a moment.
They're not Muslim. Muslim is the one who believes in one God. God never said go kill anybody.
So are you saying, Muslim or no, if a human being believes in one God and is religious, and they love God, and they love any one of the scriptures, then they love human rights.
That's right. So for any group, clan, or organization to come out and assume power and make a decision that it has anything to do with God or loving God or not loving God, killing is prohibited. Killing is an act of murder, no matter who.
But look, Shari, I can't stand the thought of bigotry in any form. But the president is doing everything he can to block entry into America from Muslims coming from 7 countries because he says we don't have the vetting methodology and tools to protect ourselves.
Well, I think he misspeaks when he calls these murderers Muslim. And
why?
Because they're not Muslim.
No, but we just spoke just now.
Because he doesn't know what Muslim is.
Radicalism is genetic. Muslim.
That was a long time ago. It's gone. It's finished now. Everybody almost believe in one God, except the murderers. I don't believe that they believe in anything. They don't believe in God. You can't believe in God and put a knife in somebody's throat and kill them.
I got to agree with you. That's true.
So they're not religious. The people who after Christ, they would put people on racks and pull them apart. People who used to burn people, they used to fry people after Christ if they didn't convert. If they didn't eat pork, they would. It's all misunderstanding of the message of Christ. His message was lost the first 200 years, totally. They didn't understand. After 300 years, then Constantine came and embraced Christianity because they were too numerous and he couldn't deal with them, and he built a church. But it doesn't make it right if they said that people misunderstood Christ. Crusaders, all these different sects of Christianity, Cathars, who believed that God was half God was half evil, half good, half evil. They were then John Calvin came, and Calvinism, then all these Protestants and Catholics killing each other.
So you've just convinced me that Islam does not have an exclusive
It's
on
like
radicalism.
Christian.
Christians became radical,
No,
and
but, you know,
Moses and his followers were also
It's
radical.
just the same as when Catholics were killing Protestants. When Catherine de' Medici came and pretended like she wanted to make up with Protestants. She arranged a wedding for the Dauphin, for the son, with a nobleman which was Protestant. So on the wedding night, she had all the wedding guests, Protestant wedding guests, killed. Within 3,000 people were killed that night. Within days, streets of Paris was full of dead people. 300,000 people died. And Pope Urban called this a Catholic victory. Now, do you really believe that Christ would want something like that happen? Protestants kill Catholics, Catholics kill Protestants.
Shari, let me answer your question. No. I think what you've just done is told me the inconvenient truth. Muslims do not have an exclusive on radicalism. Christians
There were
did a good job,
far
Protestants
worse.
did a good job, and Jews did too.
Exactly. We just don't have the media. We don't have tapes.
At that time, there was no media.
No. So we don't have the knowledge. Most of these events happened because of our lack of knowledge. The revolution, Islamic revolution in Iran happened because of our lack of knowledge. When Carter calls Khomeini Gandhi, that only shows how little he knows about these murderers and how fast they were ordered to kill innocent people just because of their power, because they were rich. They were all the factory owners were ordered to be killed by these radicalists because they had money.
Let's talk about Jimmy Carter for a moment. Because you are Iranian, and because you went back to Iran, got your project management degree from Harvard, and actually worked on the atomic missile. What was going on just before the revolution and Jimmy Carter?
I believe that Jimmy Carter gave birth to terrorism by bringing Khomeini.
Yeah.
And then when Anwar Sadat was killed, Al-Qaeda was born by al-Zawahiri, who was a young doctor who is head of Al-Qaeda, and he's still alive this day.
Bin Laden was the head of Al-Qaeda.
No, al-Zawahiri was head of Al-Qaeda. He's still head of Al-Qaeda. But he camouflages himself with other... Firstly,
So you're saying that Bin Laden
was just a front.
Just a front?
Yes, just a front. Jihadi John was a front.
So we have not killed the head of Al-Qaeda.
No, not only we haven't killed him, he's very intelligent not to come in front of camera. And now most everybody think that there's a few head of Al-Qaeda, which is al-Zawahiri is included. So he doesn't single himself out.
Can you tell us as much about ISIS as you have about Al-Qaeda?
ISIS is a branch of Al-Qaeda. They all come from Al-Qaeda. They're all
I thought they were enemies.
Children of, now they are, because they're all children of al-Zawahiri and bin Laden, they started acting unilaterally. They became enemies.
In other words, ISIS started operating unilaterally.
So did Brotherhood. Brotherhood was that al-Zakiri who we killed in his home, who was beheading people in front of the camera. The head of ISIS used to be very obedient to Al-Qaeda. Then he goes and he starts trying to bring Khalifat back and make himself Khalif and make this starting Islamic states like Syria and Iraq. Al-Zawahiri did not like that because he didn't do it with getting permission from him. He did it unilaterally. So that's why they're enemies now.
Where do things stand today in terms of aim? I love the philosophy. Anti-Islamic murders. Are you saying that you want to promote the idea that the anti-Islamic murderers are not even Muslims?
Not only they're not Muslims, I think what we should do, since they really are not scared of dying, they really do believe they go to heaven if they die. I think we should disrobe them from cloak of Islam. We call them anti-Islamic. We should do the same thing Constantine did with Christianity, embrace Islam, build mosques that teach the real Islam.
So in other words, because propaganda over the First War, the Second War, Vietnam, now, propaganda is so powerful. Are you saying we should propagandize?
Yes. I think we should propagandize, we should call them anti-Islamic. That would probably be the biggest blow for them.
And the Muslims, the 1.3 billion Muslims, a large percentage of them see ISIS and Al-Qaeda as being anti-Islamic.
Yes, I think we are very
insulting
to the real Muslims.
Will begin to become less radicalized if
Who?
Those Muslims who might become radicalized, if they understand ISIS is not only not Muslim, but they're anti-Muslim, could be a weapon, a propaganda weapon we could use.
That actually is true for everybody who goes and joins ISIS. They become Muslim to go kill people and get money and have their family to be taken care of and get killed and go to heaven. That's the whole purpose.
Is it your vision, if AIM were promulgated correctly, propagandized properly, there would be less radicalization?
Oh, yes, less people would join them because they would. We have to educate people about Islam, so they know. Sharia law is totally anti-Islam.
This is fascinating.
Some of it.
Tell me why. That is one of the most popular topics in America.
So many contradictions with what Muhammad said.
Examples, please.
Examples was in Quran. It says, just like the Bible, it says women should dress modestly. Then in Sharia law it says they have to cover their face or their hair. In Islam says that Quran never says kill people or cut their hands. It's only Sunnis, because they love the bloodshed and they love to see blood gushing out. They made up these laws and they call it Sharia law and they attribute it to Muhammad. Has nothing to do with Muhammad and what he was about. He was about peace. He came to bring peace. He came to complete. He was called the seal of the prophet, and his book is called the Final Testament. But the book has been paid very little attention because of these people, these terrorists, murderers come and they hold this Quran in one hand and the rifle in the other hand. It's like oxymoron. The Quran talks about peace and love. just like Christ did, just like Moses did. The bloodshed in the Bible is all the same. As I said, Moses killing people, King David killing people, Muhammad killing people. These were all ethnic cleansing for people who believed in more than one. There is more than one God. So now it's they're just using that, and they're using the fact that we have no knowledge of what the real Islam is, which is basically the same as Judaism and Christianity. All these three. If you notice the prophets, Moses, Jesus was follower of Moses. Muhammad came and said you have to recognize Jesus as a prophet, Moses as a prophet. You have to believe in their scripture and what they have written. So the prophets had no problem with each other. It's the followers that are trying to make up these documents. Even in Christianity, all this Sky-Picot agreement or Nicene agreement was all about trivial matters. People got killed over these documents. It took them years and years. And all it was about was Jesus Son of God? Was he divine? Was he not divine? Was he half God, half? None of these have anything to do with your personal connection to God. These were just prophets who came to give us the message. You want to believe them, believe them. You don't want to believe them, don't make up stories about what they said. This is what we have been doing. When Christ said don't eat pork, it's okay if you eat pork, he didn't say force feed people pork, otherwise they're not Christian. He never said that. So this.
Why did you make that statement? Did that actually happen?
Yes, they would force feed people. If they weren't converting to Christianity, sometimes they would say, because they were afraid of their lives, they would say they're Christians, so they would force feed them pork. If they didn't eat them, they would actually cut their body part and they would fry those body parts in front of their siblings. So that atrocity, they would put them on racks. Spain in year 1400 issued a decree that anybody who doesn't convert to Christianity, all the Jews and Muslims should leave Spain. So these are all kings and presidents making these decisions, let alone these illiterate Arabs that create this murderous
I didn't mean for our
atrocity.
interview to become so bloody, but damn it, you got to clear up something for me. Genetic reasons versus behavioral adaptation and radicalism today. Which do you think is more likely the reason for what's going on in San Bernardino Parish in Belgium?
They are so miseducated. They tell them what they want them to hear. And these people really don't read Quran, or they don't understand it because it's written in a very complicated Arabic language.
What is it about the Quran that is so complicated?
Well, it's poetic. It's written in a poetic way. It's really the whole Quran is based on a code. It's based on the structure of Quran is based on number 19, which is 19. Number 1 is the alpha. Number 9 is the last number. Your omega. I'm the
Shari,
alpha
are
and
you
the omega.
a numerologist?
I try to study, and I'm trying to write a book about that. And I do believe that Old Testament has basically the numbers are very important. All of these dimensions.
I don't want to influence your future, but numerology is interesting, but I think AIM is far more interesting because we need it.
Numbers and mathematics is a universal language, and there is a thing to be said about the balance of the universe and the stars and the galaxies of the stars, and how equal and balanced everything is. So I do believe there is a reason why the number 3 is so important, number 12 is so important.
Can you help us
Muhammad.
by explaining to us what you mean?
Well, yes. For instance, Moses had 12 tribes, Jesus had 12 apostles, Muhammad had 12 imam. 2 plus 1 is 3. Number 3 is very important. The third day, Christ was resurrected. Number 3, the third day, this happened. You see that a lot. And or number 7 for that matter, which makes it a whole number, a complete number, which actually relates to the days. And the Genesis, the 7 days of Genesis, scientifically is proven that it's not really 7 days. Don't mean days like 24 hours. It means period. So each period took millions of years. The first day, which was it took 250 million years, is when the water receded and earth came up, so the sun, let there be sun. Then it was expanded, 250 million became 500, the second day was 5, it took 500 million years for the second, then 1 billion was the third day, 2 billion was the fourth day, 4 billion was the fifth day, 8 billion was the sixth day, and now we're in the period of seventh day, and you know that the astronomers and scientists saying that we are in the 16 billion years and we have like 5 to 6 billion years to go.
Why do you know all this?
Because I'm a mathematician and I was interested in the numerology. I started writing a book about numerology first, actually, and I do believe that.
What got in your way? What stopped you?
Well, there was a doctor, Egyptian doctor named Rashid Khalifa, who was in Tucson, Arizona. I don't know if you know about it or not. A few years ago, he studied 30 years. He studied Quran, and the fact that Quran is based, the structure of Quran is based on number 19. I read his book, very interesting. So, what happened? Wahhabis, Arab Wahhabis, which is ISIS, they beheaded him while he was praying in the mosque in Tucson, Arizona, because they said he's been blasphemous.
I read about that. Why was he blasphemous?
Because he analyzed Quran. He actually opened it up a little bit after 30 years, and he did it with computer. So they said that you have to leave the secrets of Quran.
I want to get back to AIM. AIM is such an important concept. It could save lives.
Well, yes, it could save lives if we decide that if we change our presidents and all these politicians and the media, stop them by calling these people Muslim. They're not Muslims. They are not far away from it.
We just have to get the military engaged in the propaganda value of
Muhammad
AIM.
called Moses and Jesus Muslim because Islam means believing in one God. Mm-hmm. And he actually said that he condemns the title of Christianity. People usually think that Muhammad was against Christianity. No, he said, I condemn the name, the title. They call the follower of Christ Christians as if he had a different religion than Moses. He says it in black and white. If people read Quran and understand it, they realize that this tremendous amount of misinformation has been printed out, handed out by these so-called scholars.
No one's going to read the Quran. that doesn't want to.
One of the hosts in the radio was telling me she was a Catholic and she was taught that it's a sin to read Quran. So it's like everybody is trying to keep their own people segregated. Segregation comes from people's thirst for authority and power.
And that makes so much sense that you would want to deal with that. And I think it's going to be you, Shari, with AIM, that's going to enlighten perhaps the whole world.
I hope so. I hope people open their eyes and see that they are far from Islam, number one. Every good Christian, every good Jew is Muslim because of Islam and Muslim is just a word in Arabic. That means believing in one God. It's not a movement, it's none of those.
Shari,
thank you very much.
You're fascinating.
Thank you.
What you've told us is fascinating. And I'm looking forward to having you back.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.